The fluorescent lights of the university library buzzed softly, casting a sterile glow over rows of books and silent study tables. In a secluded corner, 17-year-old Liam Brown sat hunched over a thick volume on civil rights history, his fingers tracing the lines of text with reverence. The library, a sanctuary of knowledge, had become his refuge, a place where the weight of the world momentarily lifted. Liam, a freshman scholarship student, had always found solace among books. Raised in a modest neighborhood, he viewed education as his ticket to a better life. The university, with its sprawling lawns and historic buildings, was a world apart from the streets he knew. Yet, within its hallowed halls, he often felt the sting of being an outsider. As he immersed himself in his studies, the tranquility was shattered by the sharp clack of polished shoes approaching. A stern voice pierced the silence. "Hey, you there. What are you doing?" Startled, Liam looked up to see a campus police officer towering over him, hand resting on his holstered weapon. "I'm studying," Liam replied, confusion etching his features. The officer's eyes narrowed. "This area is off-limits after hours. Show me your ID." Liam reached into his backpack, retrieving his student ID. The officer snatched it, scrutinizing it with a frown. "This doesn't look like you," he said, skepticism dripping from his words. "It's me," Liam insisted, his voice steady but tinged with apprehension. Without warning, the officer grabbed Liam's arm, yanking him from his seat. Books tumbled to the floor, pages fluttering like wounded birds. "Let go!" Liam protested, struggling against the officer's grip. "Stop resisting," the officer barked, tightening his hold. As the commotion escalated, students peeked from behind shelves, their eyes wide with disbelief. Whispers filled the air, some reaching for their phones to record the unfolding scene. Just as the officer began to drag Liam toward the exit, a commanding voice rang out. "Unhand him. Now." The officer froze, turning to face the source of the voice. Standing at the entrance, clad in a tailored suit and exuding authority, was Dean Robert Brown. "That's my son," he declared, his gaze unwavering. "What would you have done if you were in Dean Robert's shoes? Imagine walking into a cop dragging your son out of the library? What would you do if your safe space was invaded? And it feels like the system is stacked against you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hang tight. What's coming next is bigger and more shocking than you can imagine. And hey, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the shocking ending to this story or any of our stories. The tension that had electrified the library moments earlier now seemed to crackle in the air like a live wire. Dean Robert Brown's voice had sliced through the commotion, leaving Officer Daniels frozen in place, hands still gripping Liam's arm. The hush that followed was deafening. Students peeked from behind shelves, their eyes wide, holding their breath as they watched the scene unfold like a slow-motion car crash. Phones were out, capturing every second, every expression, every tremor in the officer's hands. Officer Daniels recovered just enough to turn his head, his eyes narrowing as he sized up the man before him. "Sir, Dean Brown cut him off with a voice that carried both authority and barely restrained fury. "You will release my son this instant, Officer Daniels." Daniels hesitated, his fingers twitching on Liam's arm, eyes darting between the dean and the gathering crowd. "He was in a restricted area after hours, sir. I was just doing your job?" Dean Brown's voice was icy. "Dragging a student out of a library for studying? You think that's your job?" Liam, still trembling from the shock of the confrontation, felt his father's presence like a shield. The anger that had been simmering inside him now mixed with a flicker of hope. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Sir, I was following protocol." "Protocol?" Dean Brown's voice rose, each syllable sharp as glass. "Protocol is to ask questions, to verify, to act with respect and integrity. Not to lay hands on a student, not to treat him like a criminal for sitting quietly and studying." The weight of the words fell heavy. A murmur ran through the small crowd of onlookers, students, library staff, even a few professors who had come to see what the noise was about. Liam tried to steady his breath. His arm throbbed where the officer had gripped it, but he forced himself to stand tall, to meet his father's eyes. "Dad," he whispered, his voice cracking. I just wanted to finish my reading. I didn't do anything wrong. Dean Brown's gaze softened for just a heartbeat as he looked at his son. The anger in his eyes flickered, replaced by a deep, fatherly worry. He reached out and gently placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. I know, son. I know. He turned back to Daniels. Let go of him. Now. Daniels hesitated for a moment longer, long enough that every eye in the room was on him. Then, with visible reluctance, he released his grip, stepping back. His face flushed red with anger and embarrassment. Dean Brown took a step closer to the officer, lowering his voice so only Daniels could hear. I want your badge on my desk in the morning, he said. And I want a written report on why you thought manhandling a student in a library was appropriate. Understood? Daniels swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. Yes, sir. The dean straightened up, turning his attention to the growing crowd. His voice shifted from cold fury to a calm, authoritative tone. Everyone, please disperse. This matter will be handled appropriately. Students began to shuffle away, some reluctantly, still filming on their phones. The tension slowly dissipated, replaced by a low hum of whispered conversations and exchanged glances. Dean Brown turned back to Liam. Are you okay? He asked, his voice now full of concern. Liam nodded, though his hand still trembled slightly. Yeah, he managed. Thanks, Dad. Let's go to my office, the dean said, his arm now around Liam's shoulders. We have a lot to talk about. As they walked down the hallway, the gravity of what had just happened settled on Liam like a lead blanket. His heart pounded not just from fear, but from anger at being singled out, at being treated like a suspect in the place he was supposed to feel safe. In the dean's office, the door clicked shut behind them, muffling the sounds of the still buzzing library. Dean Brown motioned for Liam to sit, then took his own seat behind the large oak desk that had been his for nearly a decade. Liam, he began, voice steady, this isn't the first time something like this has happened, is it? Liam hesitated, eyes downcast. No, he admitted. But not like this. Usually it's just looks, or whispers, or security asking me twice for my ID. Dean Brown's jaw clenched, his fingers steepled in front of him. And you didn't tell me? What would I say? Liam's voice rose, the frustration he'd held back all night breaking free. Dad, I get treated like I don't belong here. Like I'm not supposed to be smart enough to sit in a library. Like the only reason I'm here is because of a scholarship quota. What would you have done? March down there every time someone gave me a hard time. Dean Brown's face fell. The lines around his eyes deepened. If I had known, he began, but Liam shook his head. You can't fight every battle for me, Liam said quietly. I know that. But tonight, Dean Brown said, his voice low, this crossed a line. Liam met his father's gaze. Yeah, he whispered. It did. Dean Brown leaned back in his chair, eyes dark. This isn't just about one officer, Liam. It's about a culture that lets these things happen. A culture that treats black boys like criminals, even when they're doing exactly what we ask them to do, studying, learning, trying to get ahead. Liam nodded, his throat tight. Dean Brown's voice grew more resolute. I'm not going to let this slide. Not as your father. Not as the dean of this university. What are you going to do? Liam asked. Dean Brown's eyes were hard. I'm going to make sure everyone on this campus knows that racial profiling and harassment will not be tolerated. I'm going to start by filing a formal complaint against Officer Daniels. And then, he paused, leaning forward, I'm going to call a meeting with the university president and the board. We're going to have a real conversation about what kind of institution we are, and what kind we want to be. Liam exhaled slowly. Dad, do you think it'll change anything? Dean Brown reached across the desk, taking his son's hand. I don't know, he admitted. But I know one thing, it has to start somewhere. And if we don't fight now, when will we? The room fell silent, the weight of the moment pressing down on both of them. After a moment, Liam spoke, his voice soft but certain. Okay, he said. Let's do it. Dean Brown squeezed his hand, a small, proud smile breaking through his stern expression. That's my boy, he said. Outside the office window, the campus seemed quiet again. But Liam knew this was just the beginning. Morning came too soon for Liam Brown. The sun had barely crested over the horizon when his alarm buzzed, the shrill sound cutting through a restless sleep. He'd replayed the night's events over and over in his mind. Officer Daniels' grip, the weight of the library's silence, his father's voice slicing through the tension. His father, Dean Robert Brown, had always been a steady presence in Liam's life. Firm but fair. A man who'd taught him to stand tall, to never let the world convince him he was less than he was. But now, as Liam sat on the edge of his bed, pulling on his shoes, a gnawing doubt tugged at his chest. Would anything really change? Downstairs, the kitchen smelled of coffee and something burnt, his dad's signature breakfast. Liam smiled despite himself. As he walked in, he found his father standing by the stove, peering suspiciously at a blackened piece of toast. "Morning," Liam said, his voice rough from sleep. Dean Brown turned, his face softening when he saw his son. "Morning, champ. Sleep okay?" Liam shrugged. "I guess." His father nodded as if expecting the answer. He set the burnt toast aside and poured a cup of coffee, sliding it across the counter. "Look," he began, leaning on the counter. "I know yesterday was a lot. But I want you to know, I'm handling this." Liam sighed, staring into the swirling steam. "Dad, you can't fix everything. People are gonna think I'm getting special treatment because you're the dean." Dean Brown's brow furrowed. "Liam, this isn't about special treatment. This is about what's right. That officer was wrong. And if we don't call it out, it'll keep happening, not just to you, but to every kid who looks like you." Liam bit his lip, his mind flickering to the other black students he'd met during orientation. How many of them had stories like his? "Okay," he whispered. "What happens now?" His father took a deep breath. "This morning, I'm filing a formal complaint with campus security. And I'm requesting an immediate review of Officer Daniels' conduct." Liam's eyes widened. "Immediate review?" Dean Brown nodded. "It means Daniels will be placed on administrative leave while the investigation happens. It sends a message." Liam's chest tightened. "And what about me?" His father's eyes softened. "You, my son, are going to keep doing what you do best. You're going to class. You're going to study. You're going to remind them why you're here." Liam swallowed hard, the knot in his chest loosening just a little. "Okay," he said again, his voice firmer this time. Dean Brown reached across the counter, resting his hand on Liam's. "I'm proud of you," he said. "No matter what." Liam's throat tightened. He nodded, blinking back tears. "Thanks, Dad." They sat in silence for a moment, the sun streaming in through the kitchen window. But the quiet didn't last. A sharp knock at the door broke the fragile calm. Dean Brown's jaw tightened as he stood, motioning for Liam to stay put. He opened the door to find Officer Daniels standing on the porch, his uniform pressed but his face pale. "Dean Brown," Daniels began, his voice stiff. "I came to apologize." Dean Brown folded his arms, his posture cold and unyielding. "I'm listening." Daniels shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting past the dean to where Liam sat at the counter. "I didn't realize. I didn't know he was your son." The words hit Liam like a slap. He felt the heat rising in his chest. Dean Brown's eyes narrowed. "And if he wasn't my son?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "Would you still be here?" Daniel's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked down, shame, or was it fear, clouding his features? He stammered. "I was just following protocol." Dean Brown's voice cut like a blade. "Your protocol needs fixing. And that's not an apology. That's an excuse." Daniels swallowed hard. I'm sorry," he managed, his voice barely above a whisper. Liam's hands trembled as he watched, anger and disbelief churning inside him. He wanted to scream. He wanted to stand up and demand why Daniels had seen a threat instead of a student. But the words caught in his throat. Dean Brown's gaze was unyielding. "I've filed a complaint," he said, his voice steely. "You'll be on administrative leave until the investigation is complete. Do you understand?" Daniel's shoulders sagged. "Yes, sir." "Good," Dean Brown said. Now go. Daniels turned and left, his footsteps echoing down the sidewalk like a retreat. Dean Brown closed the door and turned back to Liam. His face was a mask of controlled fury. You okay? He asked, his voice softer now. Liam nodded, though his heart still raced. Yeah. His father came over and placed a hand on his shoulder. I know this is hard, but we're not done. We're going to the board. We're going to make sure this doesn't get buried. Liam's eyes widened. The board? Dean Brown nodded. Yes. I've already called an emergency meeting. We're going to talk about systemic issues on this campus, issues that go beyond one officer. Liam's chest swelled with a mix of fear and pride. Dad, are you sure? His father met his gaze. I'm sure. And I need you to be there with me. Liam's breath caught. Me? Dean Brown nodded. Your story matters, son. Your voice matters. They need to hear it from you. Liam swallowed hard, his hands trembling. Okay, he said. I'll do it. His father smiled, a small but powerful thing. That's my boy. The day moved in a blur after that. Liam went to his morning class, but his mind wasn't on the lecture. He could feel eyes on him, some curious, some sympathetic, some skeptical. The whispers followed him down the hallways like shadows. He's the dean's son. Did you hear what happened in the library? He must be making it up. Liam clenched his fists as he walked. He felt like a spotlight was following him, illuminating every step. But he refused to let it break him. At lunch, his friend Maya found him sitting alone at a table, picking at his food. Hey, she said, sliding into the seat across from him. I heard about last night. Liam looked up, his eyes weary. Yeah. Are you okay? She asked, her voice soft. He nodded, though the tightness in his chest made it hard to breathe. I'm okay. Just tired. Maya reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. You shouldn't have to go through this, she whispered. Liam swallowed hard. But I am. She squeezed his hand gently. I'm with you. We all are. He blinked back tears. Thanks, he whispered. That afternoon, Liam stood in the boardroom beside his father. The long mahogany table gleamed under harsh fluorescent lights. Around it sat university administrators, professors, and student representatives. All eyes were on them. Dean Brown stood tall, his presence commanding. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, he began. We have an urgent matter to discuss. Liam's heart pounded. His father's voice was steady, but he could feel the tremor beneath it, the same tremor he felt in his own bones. Dean Brown gestured to Liam. My son was forcibly removed from the library last night by Officer Daniels. He was studying. He posed no threat. And yet, he was treated like a criminal. A murmur rippled through the room. Dean Brown continued. This is not an isolated incident. This is a symptom of a deeper problem, a culture that sees students of color as suspects instead of scholars. We have a responsibility to change that culture. He turned to Liam. Son, would you like to say something? Liam's mouth went dry. He looked at the faces around the table, some sympathetic, some skeptical, some cold. He felt the weight of every student who'd ever felt like he did. He took a deep breath. I just wanted to study, he began, his voice trembling but growing stronger with every word. I just wanted to learn. But instead, I was treated like I didn't belong. Like I was a threat. And it wasn't the first time. The room was silent. I'm tired, Liam continued. Tired of feeling like I have to prove I belong here. Tired of being treated differently. I just want to be a student. I just want to be safe. He looked at his father, who nodded, his eyes shining with pride. The room remained quiet, the weight of Liam's words hanging heavy in the air. Dean Brown cleared his throat. We need change. And it starts with us. He looked around the table, his gaze hard. Are we going to lead that change, or are we going to let this happen again? No one spoke. But in that silence, something shifted. Liam could feel it. And for the first time since last night, he felt a flicker of hope. The boardroom emptied slowly, leaving Liam and his father alone with the echo of his words still hanging in the air. Liam's heart pounded so loud it felt like it might leap out of his chest. He had spoken his truth, but now he wondered if it would make any difference. Dean Brown reached across the table and placed a steady hand on his son's shoulder. "You did good," he said, his voice warm but tinged with the weight of experience. "What you said, it needed to be said. They'll have to listen now." Liam wished he could believe that. The looks on some of those faces, the tight lips, the averted eyes, made it clear that not everyone agreed. "Dad," he murmured, "what if they don't change anything? What if they just—" His father cut him off gently. "Then we don't let them forget. We keep pushing. We keep fighting. Because silence? Silence is what lets this keep happening." Liam nodded slowly, absorbing his father's words like a lifeline. But he couldn't help remembering the weariness in his father's eyes. Even Dean Brown, the man who seemed larger than life to him, looked tired. They left the boardroom together, stepping into the quiet hallway of administrative offices. The white walls were lined with plaques celebrating decades of academic achievement, but all Liam saw now were shadows. "Hey!" A voice cut through his thoughts. Liam turned to see Maya hurrying toward him, her backpack slung over one shoulder, concern etched into every line of her face. "Liam," she said breathlessly, "I saw the posts. People are talking about what happened. Some are saying it's being blown out of proportion, but others are saying it's about time someone spoke up." Liam's stomach tightened. "Yeah," he said. "I just hope it's enough." She put a hand on his arm. "It's a start," she said. "And it's more than most people ever get. You've got people behind you now. You're not alone." He smiled faintly. "Thanks, Maya." "Hey," she said softly, "you think you're ready for your next class? I could walk with you." Liam hesitated. Part of him wanted to disappear, to skip class and hide under his blankets until the world made sense again. But then he remembered his father's voice. "We keep pushing. We keep fighting." "Yeah," he said firmly. "Let's go." They walked together down the main hallway. Every step felt like a battle one. As they entered the large lecture hall, the energy shifted. Whispers followed them, eyes tracking Liam's every move. Some faces held curiosity, others showed support. But a few, the ones that made his skin crawl, were blank or worse, hard and cold. They found seats near the middle. Liam's professor, Dr. Keller, entered the room and cleared his throat. "Good afternoon, everyone," he began. "Before we start today's lecture, I'd like to address something that happened on campus last night." A hush fell over the room. Liam felt every muscle in his body tense. "I know many of you have seen the videos circulating online," Dr. Keller continued, his voice measured but firm. "What happened to Liam Brown should never have happened to any student on this campus. And as a faculty member, I want to make it clear, racism and profiling have no place here." A wave of murmurs spread through the class. Some students glanced at Liam with empathy, others seemed to shrink into their seats. Dr. Keller's gaze swept the room. "If you feel unsafe, or if you've experienced discrimination, I want to hear from you. My door is open. We can't fix what we don't acknowledge." He paused, his eyes landing on Liam. "Liam, thank you for speaking up. It takes courage." Liam swallowed hard, his chest tightening with a mix of gratitude and grief. He nodded slightly, unable to find his voice. After class, Dr. Keller caught him near the door. "Liam," he said, lowering his voice, "I'm proud of you. And I want you to know, I'll back you. You're not alone." Liam's eyes burned with unshed tears. "Thank you, Dr. Keller," he whispered. He stepped out into the bright afternoon sun, the weight of the day pressing down on his shoulders. Maya walked beside him, her presence a quiet strength. "Feels like everything's changing," she said, half smiling. Liam nodded. "Yeah," he said. "But it's not enough." She raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" He stopped, looking out across the quad where students sat on benches, laughing, studying, living their lives like nothing had happened. "It's not enough that one officer's suspended," he said. "It's not enough that one professor says they're sorry. This is bigger than one night. It's in the way people look at me. It's in the way they cross the street when I walk by. It's in every little moment that says, you don't belong here." Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "So what do we do?" Liam turned to her, his eyes fierce. "We keep fighting," he said. "We tell our stories. We stand up for each other. We don't let them look away." A spark of determination lit Maya's face. "Then let's start now." Liam smiled. "Yeah," he said. "Let's start now." That evening, back in his dorm room, Liam opened his laptop and began typing. A blog post, a letter, a statement, he didn't know what to call it yet. He just knew he had to get the words out. "I am Liam Brown," he began, his fingers flying over the keys. "Last night, I was forcibly removed from the library while studying because an officer thought I didn't belong. But I do belong. And I'm not going to let anyone tell me otherwise." He wrote about his father, about his friends, about the weight of expectations and the pain of being singled out. He wrote about fear and hope and the quiet strength that came from knowing he wasn't alone. He ended with a promise: "This isn't over. I'm not done. And I hope you're not either." He hit publish and leaned back, exhausted but resolute. His phone buzzed. A message from Maya: "Just read your post. I'm sharing it. People need to hear this." He smiled, a real smile this time. A knock at his door startled him. He opened it to find his father standing there, a small smile on his face. "Proud of you, son," Dean Brown said. "I read your post. It's powerful." Liam's heart swelled. "Thanks, Dad." Dean Brown nodded. "Tomorrow's a big day," he said. "The university's having a town hall. They've asked you to speak." Liam's stomach flipped. "Me?" His father nodded. "You." Liam swallowed hard, his mind spinning. But then he thought of his friends, of Maya, of Dr. Keller, of every kid who felt like he did. He nodded slowly. "Okay," he said, determination stealing his voice. "I'll do it." His father smiled, pride shining in his eyes. "That's my boy." And in that moment, Liam Brown knew this was just the beginning. The town hall was scheduled for 6 p.m. sharp. Liam spent the day with a restless energy thrumming through his veins, the minutes ticking by like a slow drumbeat. He tried to focus on his classes, but every time he glanced at the clock, his mind flashed back to the officer's rough hands, the stairs in the hallway, and his father's voice echoing with unspoken worries. By 5:30, he was pacing his dorm room, practicing his speech in front of the mirror. Each time he stumbled, his chest tightened. His father had always told him that words held power, more than fists, more than badges. Words could break barriers. Or build them. He just needed to find the right ones. His phone buzzed. The text from Maya. "Hey, I'm at the hall already. It's packed. People are here for you. You've got this." He stared at her message for a moment, letting the warmth of her support settle over him like a shield. He took a deep breath, grabbed his notebook, and stepped out into the hallway. The walk to the town hall felt like a corridor of whispers. Every student he passed seemed to know where he was going. Some offered quiet nods of encouragement. Others stared at him like he was a symbol of something they weren't sure they understood. The auditorium was buzzing when he arrived. Students filled every seat, their voices blending into a low hum of anticipation. Faculty lined the sides of the room, their faces a mix of concern and calculation. Near the stage, a banner read, "Standing Together, a Forum on Racial Justice and Safety." Dean Brown stood near the podium, his posture calm but his eyes scanning the room like a general assessing a battlefield. When he saw Liam, his expression softened. "Ready?" he asked. Liam's mouth felt dry. "As I'll ever be." His father nodded and turned to the crowd. He tapped the microphone, and the room slowly quieted. "Good evening, everyone," he began. "Thank you for being here tonight. This meeting is not just about an incident. It's about who we are as a community and who we choose to be." He paused, his eyes steady. "Before we begin, I'd like to invite my son, Liam Brown, to share his experience. Because his voice matters. And so does yours." A wave of applause rippled through the room, catching Liam off guard. He felt his chest tighten as he stepped up to the microphone. For a moment, he froze, the weight of every stare pinning him in place. But then he saw Maya in the front row, her eyes bright with encouragement. He saw Dr. Keller, his face solemn but supportive. And in the back, near the exit, he saw Officer Daniels, arms crossed, his face unreadable. Liam took a deep breath and began. "My name is Liam Brown," he said, his voice trembling but growing steadier with each word. "I'm a student here. I came to this campus because I believed in its promise. A promise that every student, no matter their background, has the right to learn and grow without fear." He paused, letting the words settle. "But last week, that promise was broken. I was studying in the library when Officer Daniels approached me. He didn't ask for my ID. He didn't ask if I needed help. He treated me like a threat. Like I didn't belong." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Liam continued, his voice stronger now. "I've spent days thinking about that moment, about how easily it happened, and about how many times it's probably happened before. Maybe to others who didn't have a dean for a father. Maybe to others who didn't get to stand here and tell their story." He glanced at Officer Daniels, whose face was tight, his jaw clenched. "This isn't just about me," Liam said. "This is about every student who's ever felt like they were one mistake away from being labeled a criminal. It's about a system that lets that happen over and over again without asking why." He paused, his breath catching. "I'm not here to tear down the university. I'm here because I believe in what it can be. I'm here because I want to see it change." A hush fell over the crowd. Liam could feel their eyes on him, some tearful, some thoughtful, some hesitant. Dean Brown stepped forward, his voice low and even. "Thank you, Liam," he said, his tone filled with pride. He turned to the audience. "We can't ignore this. We need to address not just the individual actions, but the structures that allow them to happen." A professor raised her hand. "What steps will be taken to ensure this doesn't happen again?" she asked, her tone pointed but fair. Dean Brown nodded. "Effective immediately, we are launching an independent review of campus security protocols and training. We will also create a student-led oversight committee to provide input and hold us accountable." Another voice piped up, a student Liam recognized from the library that night. "What about Officer Daniels?" she asked. "Is he still on duty?" Dean Brown's jaw tightened. "Officer Daniels has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation," he said. "But let me be clear, this is bigger than one officer. This is about the culture we allow to exist." Officer Daniels shifted uncomfortably in his seat. For the first time, Liam saw something in his eyes that looked like fear, or maybe regret. A student in the back stood up. "Liam," he called, his voice steady. "Thank you for sharing your story. What can we do to support you and each other moving forward?" Liam felt his throat tighten. He glanced at Maya, who gave him a small, encouraging nod. He turned back to the crowd. "Listen," he said. "Listen to each other. When someone tells you they've been hurt, believe them. Stand up for each other. And don't let this conversation end tonight." The room erupted in applause, and for a moment, Liam felt a warmth spread through his chest. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something real. Dean Brown stepped forward again. "We're not going to let this die in the darkness," he said firmly. "We're going to keep talking. We're going to keep listening. And we're going to make sure every student knows they belong here." A wave of relief and resolve washed over Liam. For the first time since that night in the library, he felt like he was standing on solid ground. The town hall adjourned, but the energy lingered. Students clustered in small groups, sharing stories, offering hugs. Faculty members approached Liam, some with tears in their eyes. Even Dr. Keller came over, his face soft with pride. "You're a brave young man," he said, gripping Liam's hand. "Don't let this be the end. Let it be the beginning." Liam nodded, his chest swelling with a mix of exhaustion and hope. "Thank you, Dr. Keller." As the crowd thinned, Liam found his father waiting at the back of the hall. Dean Brown's eyes shone with pride and a hint of exhaustion. "You did it, son," he said, pulling Liam into a fierce hug. "You did more than I ever could have asked for." Liam felt tears prick his eyes. "I just told the truth," he whispered. His father leaned back, his hands firm on Liam's shoulders. "And sometimes," he said, his voice thick, "that's the bravest thing of all." They walked out of the town hall together, the night air cool against their faces. As they stepped onto the steps, Liam paused, looking up at the stars scattered across the sky. For the first time, he didn't feel small under them. He felt powerful. Because his voice had been heard. Because change had started. Because he knew, no matter how hard it got, he wasn't alone. And somewhere deep in his chest, a fire burned. A promise that this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The aftermath of the town hall lingered like a restless ghost. Students posted Liam's speech on social media. His words spread, echoing across the campus and beyond, picked up by local news outlets and shared in group chats. For the first time in a long time, Liam felt like he was part of something bigger than his own quiet survival. But change never comes without pushback. It was the next morning when the backlash started. Liam woke to a flurry of notifications, his phone buzzing with messages and calls. Some were supportive, but others, his stomach churned as he read, were filled with venom. "Stop playing the victim, Brown. Bet your dad got you out of trouble. Affirmative action hero. Go back where you came from." He read them all, each word carving a deeper line into his heart. The worst were the ones that pretended to be rational, pretended to be fair. Like the comment from someone named Campus Voice 88. If Liam Brown was so wronged, why did Officer Daniels stop him in the first place? Where there's smoke, there's fire. He threw his phone across the room and buried his face in his hands. The weight of it all pressed down on him. The scrutiny, the judgment, the sense that no matter what he said or did, someone would twist it against him. A knock at the door startled him. He lifted his head, heart racing. "Liam?" It was Maya. "Can I come in?" He swallowed hard. "Yeah." She entered slowly, eyes gentle but filled with concern. "I've been reading the comments," she said quietly. "I'm so sorry, Liam." He shook his head. "It's not your fault." She reached for his hand, her touch warm. "You know they're wrong, right? You know what happened wasn't your fault." He met her gaze. "Yeah," he said, though his voice trembled. "But it still hurts." They sat together in silence for a long moment. Then Maya spoke again, her voice fierce. "You started something last night. People are talking. People are listening. Don't let them drown you out with hate." Liam nodded, though the fear still lingered at the edges of his mind. A sudden knock at the door interrupted them. Liam jumped. It was his father. Dean Brown's face was drawn, his eyes shadowed. "Son," he said, his voice low. "I just came from a meeting with the administration." Liam's heart sank. "What's happening?" His father sighed heavily. "There's pressure coming from some alumni. They're questioning whether your speech was appropriate. They're saying it makes the university look bad." Liam's jaw tightened. "Makes them look bad?" he echoed. "What about what happened to me? What about the library? What about Officer Daniels?" Dean Brown held up a hand. I know. But politics is a slow game, son. Change doesn't come easy. They're talking about forming a task force, a review committee, but it's all talk right now. No promises." Liam stood abruptly, his anger surging. "A task force?" he spat. "They're going to file this under pending review and hope everyone forgets." Dean Brown's eyes softened. "That's why you can't stop talking," he said. "That's why you have to keep fighting. Because if you don't, they'll bury this." Liam's breath came fast, his hands clenched at his sides. "Then I won't let them," he said, his voice sharp. "I'll make them listen." His father nodded. "That's my boy." Later that day, Liam found himself back in the library, the place where everything had started. It felt different now, heavy with memories and ghosts. The same rows of books, the same dim glow of the reading lamps, but now every step felt like walking through a battlefield. He found his usual spot and sank into the chair, staring at the table where Officer Daniels had confronted him. He let his mind replay every detail, the flash of the badge, the tightness in his chest, the disbelief that it could happen here, to him. "Mind if I sit?" The voice pulled him from his thoughts. He looked up to see Dr. Keller, his backpack slung over one shoulder, his eyes kind but tired. "Sure," Liam said. Dr. Keller sat, folding his hands on the table. "I wanted to check on you," he said. "I know it's been overwhelming." Liam gave a small, bitter laugh. "That's one way to put it." Dr. Keller nodded solemnly. I know the administration is dragging its feet. But some of us want to help. Some of us want to make this right. Liam leaned forward. Then why aren't they moving faster? Why are they so afraid to call this what it is? Dr. Keller's gaze was steady. Because it means admitting the system is broken, he said. And once you admit that, you have to change it. And change scares people in power. Liam exhaled, his shoulders slumping. I don't know how much longer I can do this, he whispered. Dr. Keller reached out, placing a hand on Liam's. You're stronger than you know, he said softly. And you're not alone. I'm with you. Others are. And we're not going to let this die quietly. Liam looked into Dr. Keller's eyes and saw something he hadn't seen in days, hope. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed with a new message. It was from an unknown number. He hesitated, then opened it. Meet me outside the student union. We need to talk. Officer Daniels. His pulse quickened. Fear, anger, curiosity, every emotion collided inside him. He looked up at Dr. Keller. It's Daniels, he said. He wants to talk. Dr. Keller's eyes narrowed. Are you sure that's a good idea? Liam's jaw tightened. I don't know. But I need answers. I need to know why. Dr. Keller's hand tightened on his. Be careful, Liam, he warned. And if you go, don't go alone. Liam nodded, his resolve hardening. I won't. He stood, pocketing his phone, and left the library with his heart pounding in his chest. Outside, the evening air was cool and sharp. The student union loomed ahead, its lights glowing like a beacon. He could see Officer Daniels standing near a bench, his uniform crisp, his posture rigid. Maya appeared beside him, her eyes wide with worry. You sure about this? She asked. Liam nodded. I need to know why. They approached together. Officer Daniels turned, his face a complicated mix of regret and defensiveness. Brown, he said. Thanks for coming. Liam crossed his arms. Why did you do it? He asked, his voice calm but edged with steel. Why me? Daniels shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't personal, he muttered. I was told there were reports of suspicious activity. I acted on protocol. Liam's eyes flashed. Protocol? I was studying. I had my books. I had my ID. And you treated me like a criminal. Like I didn't belong. Daniel's face tightened. I made a mistake, he admitted, his voice low. I was wrong. I've been trained to profile, to assume the worst. And he paused, his voice cracking. I'm sorry, Liam. I really am. Liam stared at him, the anger in his chest swirling with confusion. He wanted to scream, to tell Daniels his apology meant nothing. But he also saw the tremble in the man's hands, the fear in his eyes. Daniels continued, his voice breaking. I've seen things on this campus, things I should have questioned but didn't. I just followed orders. But what I did to you, it opened my eyes. Liam swallowed hard. So what now? He demanded. You say you're sorry. You say you were wrong. But what are you going to do to fix it? Daniels looked at the ground. I'm going to testify, he said, his voice trembling. I'm going to tell the administration everything. The pressure from above, the way they push us to keep order, even if it means ignoring the truth. Liam felt his heart catch. You're going to speak up? He asked, incredulous. Daniels nodded slowly. It's the least I can do, he said. For you, and for every student I failed. Liam felt the ground shift under his feet. He hadn't expected this. He hadn't expected the man who had dragged him from the library to become an ally. Maya squeezed his hand, her eyes bright. That's a start, she said softly. Liam nodded. Yeah, he said, his voice steady. It's a start. As they stood under the glow of the student union lights, Liam realized this fight wasn't just his anymore. It belonged to everyone who had been silenced. Everyone who had been made to feel small. Everyone who refused to let the system bury them. He looked at Daniels and saw not just a man in uniform, but a man who had chosen to change. And he saw hope. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something bigger. The morning after Officer Daniels' confession, Liam woke up to a different kind of morning. The air in his dorm room felt charged, like static before a storm. His phone buzzed relentlessly. Messages from classmates, strangers, even old high school friends he hadn't spoken to in years. Some were messages of support. "Liam, you're inspiring us. Keep going. We're behind you 100%. Finally, someone speaking the truth. Others were more sinister. "Stop stirring the pot, Brown. Let things go. If you don't like it here, leave. Nobody wants your drama." He scrolled, his stomach tightening with every message. It felt like the world was on a knife's edge. And he was the one holding the blade. His father had left a voicemail. The tone was clipped but determined. "Liam, I know this is a lot. But I'm proud of you. And I'm here. Always." He closed his eyes, drawing strength from his father's words. A knock at his door made him jump. He opened it to find Maya, her eyes wide with urgency. "Liam," she said breathlessly, "have you seen the news?" His heart sank. "What now?" She thrust her phone into his hands. A headline blared across the screen. "Campus cop on administrative leave blames university leadership for racial profiling." Liam's eyes darted across the lines. Daniel's statement was there in black and white. "I was following the protocols they drilled into us. I didn't question them, but I should have. And now I'm going to make it right." He sat heavily on the edge of his bed. "He actually did it," he whispered. Maya's eyes glistened. "Yeah. And now the administration is in full panic mode." Liam's chest tightened. "They're not going to let this go quietly." "Of course not," she said. "They're protecting themselves. But they can't spin this. Not anymore. Everyone's watching." He met her gaze, the weight of it all pressing down on him. "We need to be careful, Maya. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about everyone who's ever felt like they didn't belong." She nodded. "So what's next?" He took a deep breath. "We keep going. We keep talking. We bring the truth into the light." A soft knock on the door made them both jump. Dr. Keller stood there, a manila folder in his hands, his expression grave. "Liam, can we talk?" he asked. "Of course," Liam said, stepping aside to let him in. Dr. Keller sat down, his shoulders heavy. "I just came from a faculty meeting. Tensions are high, Liam. Some professors are calling for a formal inquiry into the administration's handling of this. Others, they're worried about the university's reputation." Liam's jaw clenched. "Reputation," he spat. "What about the students who've been hurt? What about the ones who never got to speak up?" Dr. Keller's eyes glistened. "I agree. But the system's fighting back. There's talk of discrediting Daniels. Saying he's a disgruntled employee, unstable. They're scared of what he knows." Liam's pulse raced. "They're going to try to bury this," he said. "Just like they've buried everything else." Maya reached for his hand. "Then we don't let them." Dr. Keller opened the folder. Inside were pages of reports, memos, emails. "These are internal documents Daniels gave me," he said. "They show a pattern of profiling. Directives from higher-ups. This is what they're afraid of getting out." Liam's hands trembled as he flipped through the papers. This is everything we need." Dr. Keller nodded. "But it's dangerous, Liam. If you go public with this, they'll come after you. They'll call you a liar. They'll threaten your future." Liam's eyes hardened. "They already have. But I won't stay silent." A knock interrupted them again, harder this time. Liam's heart leapt. His father entered, his face a mask of tension. "Son," Dean Brown said, his voice low, "I just got word. The university is holding an emergency board meeting tonight. They're talking about disciplinary action against you." Liam's stomach dropped. "For what?" "Speaking the truth." His father's eyes burned with fury. "They're scared, Liam. You forced them to look at what they've tried to hide. And they'll do anything to protect themselves." Maya's voice cut through the haze. "Then we go to the press," she said. "We make sure they can't hide this." Dean Brown hesitated. "That's a big step. Once it's out there, there's no going back." Liam met his father's gaze. "They already made that choice for me," he said. "This is about every student who's ever felt invisible. This is bigger than me." His father's eyes glistened. "Then I'm with you," he whispered. "All the way." The day blurred in a rush of meetings, calls, and whispered plans. By nightfall, Liam found himself standing outside the campus radio station, a place he'd walked by 1,000 times but never entered. The glow from inside spilled onto the sidewalk, warm and inviting. Maya squeezed his hand. "Are you sure about this?" Liam's jaw set. "This is the only way." Inside, the air smelled of old equipment and warm coffee. The station manager, a senior with a kind smile and a steady hand, greeted them. "Liam Brown," he said. "I've been waiting for you." They led him into a small recording booth. The microphone loomed in front of him, the red, on-air, light glowing like an unblinking eye. His heart pounded in his chest. "Whenever you're ready," the manager said. Liam took a deep breath. "My name is Liam Brown," he began, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "I'm a student at this university, and I'm here tonight to tell the truth." He spoke of the night in the library, of Officer Daniels, of the town hall. He spoke of the documents Daniels had given him, of the systemic bias that had crept through the cracks of the campus. He spoke of every student who'd ever been made to feel small. "I'm not here to tear this place down," he said, his voice catching. "I'm here because I believe in what it can be. I'm here because I believe in us." He paused, letting the silence hang heavy. "Don't let them tell you this is just about me," he continued. "It's about every single person who's ever been made to feel like they don't belong. And it's up to us, all of us, to change that." The light above the door flickered. The station manager leaned in. "That was powerful, Liam," he said softly. "Thank you." Liam exhaled, feeling the weight of his words settle into the air. As they left the station, the night air felt different, charged, electric. Maya squeezed his hand. "You did it," she said. "You told the truth." Liam nodded, his chest tight. "Yeah," he whispered. "But now the real fight begins." Because he knew the university's board wouldn't take this lying down. He knew they'd come after him. But he also knew something else, that he wasn't alone anymore. That his voice had joined a chorus too loud to ignore. The campus glowed in the distance, its buildings bathed in moonlight. And as Liam and Maya walked together, he felt a fierce hope burning in his chest. Because the truth was out. And this time, they weren't backing down. The night air outside the administration building felt colder than usual, thick with tension and anticipation. A small crowd had gathered in front of the grand wooden doors, their breath forming clouds in the glow of the overhead lamps. News cameras lined the walkway, their red lights blinking like watchful eyes. Liam stood in the center of it all, his hands clenched at his sides. Maya stood beside him, her fingers laced through his, grounding him with her strength. Dr. Keller hovered at his other side, his face drawn tight with worry. And just beyond them, Dean Brown's tall figure loomed, his jaw set like granite. Tonight, the university's board of trustees had called an emergency meeting, ostensibly to address student concerns, but Liam knew better. This was damage control, a desperate bid to silence the fire he'd lit. But Liam wasn't going to let them. A sudden hush fell over the crowd as the front doors creaked open. A man in a dark suit stepped out, his eyes sharp, his lips pressed into a thin line. It was Chairman Whitaker, a man known for his love of tradition and his disdain for troublemakers. His voice carried like cold steel. "Mr. Brown," he said, his tone formal and clipped, "the board is ready to hear your statement. You may proceed." Liam took a deep breath, feeling every eye on him. The cameras zoomed in. He felt Maya's hand squeeze his one last time, then let go. He stepped forward, the weight of his decision heavy on his shoulders. The boardroom was cavernous, lined with polished oak panels and old oil portraits of former deans and donors staring down with cold, judgmental eyes. A long mahogany table stretched the length of the room, its surface gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. The trustees sat on either side like sentinels. Chairman Whitaker took his seat at the head, his hands folded neatly. Liam stood at the far end, a single microphone before him. "Mr. Brown," Whitaker began, his voice dripping with formality. "You have 5 minutes." Liam's heart pounded. He took a breath, letting the silence stretch just a moment too long, letting them feel the weight of what he was about to say. 5 minutes, he repeated, his voice steady but laced with defiance. 5 minutes to condense an entire lifetime of being told I don't belong. A ripple of discomfort shifted through the room. He continued, his voice gaining strength. I stand here not just for myself, but for every student who's been profiled, silenced, or made to feel like they didn't matter. This isn't just about me being dragged out of a library. It's about a system that allowed it to happen, and that tried to bury it afterward. He pulled a folder from his backpack and opened it, spreading the documents across the table for the trustees to see. These are your policies, he said, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Directives that target certain students, encourage staff to monitor library spaces after dark. This is your bias, written in black and white. Chairman Whitaker's jaw tightened. Mr. Brown, these are internal documents. And the public has a right to see them. Liam shot back. You think you can hide behind closed doors and fancy language? But this is our school too. We deserve better. The room fell silent, the tension so thick it felt like it could snap. Dean Brown, sitting near the back, cleared his throat. Mr. Chairman, with respect, my son is right. These students are the heart of this university. If we can't keep them safe, if we can't treat them fairly, then what are we even doing here? Whitaker's lips pressed into a thin line. Dean Brown, your position is noted, he said icily. But we will proceed according to protocol. Liam's chest burned with anger. Protocol is why we're here, he spat. Because following protocol meant Daniels dragged me out of a library like a criminal. Because following protocol means kids like me get silenced. Dr. Keller leaned forward, his voice low but resolute. With respect, Mr. Chairman, these are not isolated incidents. The documents Liam brought show a pattern. The board needs to confront that. Whitaker's eyes flicked between them, his face like stone. Mr. Brown, he said slowly, are you accusing this university of systemic racism? Liam held his ground, meeting the chairman's gaze unflinchingly. I'm not accusing, he said. I'm proving it. A murmur rippled through the room. Some of the trustees shifted uncomfortably. Others stared at Liam with cold, hard eyes. Whitaker's voice dropped to a dangerous hush. These are serious allegations. If you persist, you may be facing disciplinary action. Liam's fists clenched. Then do it, he said, his voice unwavering. But know this, every threat you throw at me is another reason why this fight matters. Every time you try to silence me, you prove my point. A trustee halfway down the table, a woman with silver hair and a pinched expression, leaned forward. Mr. Brown, what exactly do you want from us? Liam let the question hang in the air for a moment. He saw Maya's face in his mind, the fear and the hope. He saw his father, weary but unyielding. He saw Dr. Keller, who'd risked his career to stand with him. And he saw himself, a kid who just wanted to study in a library without being treated like a threat. I want justice, he said finally. I want you to acknowledge the harm you've caused. I want real accountability, real change. And I want every student who's ever felt like they didn't belong to know they have a place here. The room fell silent. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. Chairman Whitaker's lips twitched. Thank you, Mr. Brown, he said, his voice cold. The board will deliberate. Liam nodded, his chest tight. He turned and walked toward the door, his head held high. As he reached the exit, he heard voices, trustees whispering, chairs scraping, papers rustling. The storm he'd brought to their doorstep had arrived. Outside the boardroom, Maya was waiting. She rushed to his side, her eyes brimming. Liam, she whispered, that was incredible. He exhaled, the tension finally breaking. Thanks, he said, his voice cracking. But I don't know if it was enough. It was more than enough, Dr. Keller said, his voice firm. You put the truth in front of them. Now they can't pretend it doesn't exist. Liam looked at his father, who placed a hand on his shoulder. No matter what they decide, Dean Brown said softly, I am so proud of you. A sudden movement caught Liam's eye. A man in a suit stepped out of the boardroom, a file folder in his hands. He was young, probably a junior administrator, but his eyes were wide with urgency. "Mr. Brown," he said, his voice trembling. "You need to see this." Liam took the folder, his hands shaking. He flipped it open, and his heart stopped. Inside was an email chain. Memos from high-ranking officials discussing ways to control the narrative, to minimize the optics. Plans to discredit Officer Daniels, to paint Liam as an agitator. Maya's eyes widened. "Oh my God," she breathed. They were going to cover it up. All of it. Liam felt the fire ignite in his chest. He looked at the administrator. "How did you get this?" The man swallowed hard. "Someone slipped it to me," he said. "Said you'd know what to do." Liam closed the folder and met his father's gaze. "They think they can hide behind their walls," he said, his voice hard as steel. "But I'm going to tear them down, one brick at a time." Dr. Keller's eyes burned with pride. "Let's get to work," he said. The night was far from over. But for the first time, Liam didn't feel like he was fighting alone. Liam clutched the folder like a lifeline as he and Maya made their way back across the quad, the cool night air biting at their faces. Every step felt electric, charged with the weight of what they'd uncovered. Behind them, the administration building loomed, its polished facade now a fortress of lies exposed. The email chain in his hands was dynamite, clear proof the university had conspired to silence him, to spin the narrative, to protect themselves instead of the students. Maya glanced over at him, her eyes sharp. "What are we going to do with that?" she asked, her voice a mix of awe and determination. Liam's mind was a whirlwind. "We take it public," he said. "We show everyone exactly how deep this goes." She nodded, the corners of her mouth tightening. "We need to be strategic, though. If we just post it, they'll spin it as stolen property, or blame it on hackers. We need to control the story." He stopped beneath the glow of an old street lamp, the light casting long shadows across the grass. "You're right," he murmured, flipping the folder open again. He read the top email aloud, his voice trembling with anger. "We need to get ahead of this. Brown is a risk. Frame him as an agitator, an opportunist, anything that keeps him from becoming a martyr." He shook his head. "They really thought they could bury me." Maya's jaw set. "They don't know you like I do," she said, her voice fierce. "They don't know how hard you fight." A voice cut through the night. "And they don't know me either." They turned to see Officer Daniels step out of the shadows, his uniform jacket unzipped, his badge glinting under the streetlight. His eyes were tired but resolute. "Officer Daniels," Liam said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" Daniels exhaled, running a hand through his short-cropped hair. "They put me on administrative leave this morning," he said. "Told me to keep my mouth shut. But I can't. Not after what I've seen." His gaze met Liam's. "I heard about the board meeting. About what you said. And I knew I had to be here." Liam's chest swelled with a mix of gratitude and determination. "We have proof now," he said, holding up the folder. "Emails. Directives. Everything." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "That's exactly what they're afraid of. Listen, I've been talking to some of the other officers. Not all of them are like me. Some of them want to keep their jobs more than they want to do the right thing. But there are a few who are ready to stand up. If you go public with this, they'll back you." Maya's eyes widened. "You're telling us we have allies?" Daniels nodded. "More than you know. But you have to move fast. Once they realize you have this," he tapped the folder, "they'll try to discredit it, or you. Or both." Liam's heart raced. "Then we move tonight," he said. "We get it out before they can twist it." Daniels hesitated. "There's a reporter in town, Shannon Holt. She's been covering the education beat for years. Tough. Honest. She's the one who got me to talk in the first place. If you get her this information, she'll know what to do with it." Liam nodded. "Do you have her number?" Daniels pulled a crumpled card from his pocket and handed it over. "Tell her I sent you. She'll listen." Liam glanced at Maya. Her eyes blazed with the same determination he felt coursing through his veins. "Let's do it," she said. They sprinted across campus, the night air alive with adrenaline. Every shadow felt like it might hold an enemy. Every sound made Liam's heart skip. But he didn't slow down. He wouldn't slow down. Shannon Holt's office was a converted basement in a brick building near the edge of town, a place that smelled of old coffee and damp paper. She met them at the door, her curly hair pulled back, eyes alert and questioning. "Daniels called me," she said, her voice brisk but warm. "Said you had something I needed to see." Liam handed over the folder, his hands trembling. "It's all here," he said. "Emails, directives, proof that the administration has been targeting me and students like me for years." She took the folder, flipping through it with practiced speed. Her eyes hardened. "Holy hell," she muttered. This is big. This isn't just a story, Liam. This is the kind of thing that takes down administrations." Liam's stomach flipped. "Good," he said. "They need to be taken down." She looked up, her eyes sharp. "Are you ready for what comes next? Because once I run this story, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle." He met her gaze, steady and unflinching. "I've never been more ready," he said. Shannon gave him a small, fierce smile. "All right," she said. "Let's make some noise." The story broke the next morning, hitting every social media feed, every student inbox, every local news station. Shannon had pulled no punches. She named names, published the emails, quoted Daniel's confession, and included Liam's impassioned statement from the board meeting. The headline hit like a hammer. University administration plotted to silence student whistleblower, emails reveal. Within hours, the campus was in uproar. Students flooded the quad with signs and chants. Faculty members started issuing statements of solidarity. Alumni groups posted open letters demanding accountability. Liam stood in the center of it all, watching the crowd swell, voices rising. Maya was beside him, her eyes bright. Dr. Keller arrived, his face alight with pride. "You did it," he said, his voice full of emotion. "You started something bigger than any of us could have imagined." Liam's father approached, his expression proud but worried. "Son," he said, pulling him into a hug. "I've never been prouder of you. But this fight, it's just beginning." Liam nodded, his heart steady. "I know, Dad. But I'm ready." Just then, a hush fell over the crowd as a black SUV pulled up to the administration building. The door swung open and out stepped Chairman Whitaker, his face pale and drawn. Cameras flashed as reporters swarmed him. "Chairman Whitaker," one shouted, "do you deny the allegations in the emails?" Whitaker's mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. Liam stepped forward, his voice clear and strong. "Chairman Whitaker," he called, "do you have anything to say to the students you've betrayed?" Whitaker's eyes darted to Liam's, the fear in them plain. "Mr. Brown," he stammered, I think we should discuss this in a more formal setting." Liam shook his head, his voice rising. "No more closed doors. No more backroom deals. We're done with that. This is our campus. And you answer to us now." The crowd erupted, their cheers echoing through the quad like a roar. Whitaker backed away, his expression one of defeat. Liam turned to Maya, his heart swelling with hope and determination. "We're not done yet," he said. "But we're not alone anymore." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "No," she whispered. "We're not." The cameras captured every moment. The truth, the solidarity, the power of voices rising together. And in that moment, Liam knew this was the turning point. This was where change truly began. He looked out over the crowd, his chest tight with pride and purpose. "This is just the beginning," he called out, his voice carrying over the chants and cheers. "Together, we're going to build something better. And they can't stop us." The crowd erupted again, louder than before. And Liam felt a fire ignite in his chest, a fire that no administration, no corrupt policy, could ever extinguish. The fight was far from over. But now, he wasn't just a voice in the dark. He was a leader in the light. And this time, he wouldn't let them silence him. The next day dawned bright and cold, sunlight cutting through the trees and painting long shadows on the university's quad. Liam stood near the steps of the administration building, the same place he'd been dragged from by Officer Daniels what felt like a lifetime ago. Now, though, the air felt different, charged with possibility instead of dread. The campus buzzed with activity, Students streamed from classrooms carrying posters demanding justice. Local media trucks parked by the curb, antennas raised. Reporters, students, and staff alike crowded the steps. Every eye seemed to turn toward Liam as he stepped up to the makeshift podium. He could feel the weight of their expectation, the hope burning in their eyes. Maya squeezed his hand, her smile steady, her eyes fierce. "You ready?" she asked. Liam nodded. He'd never been more ready in his life. A hush fell as he faced the crowd. Microphones were thrust in his direction. He saw Dean Brown standing at the edge of the gathering, his expression a complex blend of pride and relief. And at the back, Dr. Keller nodded slowly as if to say, "Go on, this is your moment." Liam cleared his throat and took a deep breath. "We came here to learn," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "We came here to grow, to become the people we were meant to be. But the truth is, the system that was supposed to protect us failed. It failed me. It failed so many of us." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. He continued, raising the folder in his hand. "But we found the truth. We exposed the lies. And now, thanks to every single one of you who stood up, who refused to be silent, that truth is out in the open. Today, this university is going to be held accountable for what it allowed to happen." Just then, Chairman Whitaker stepped forward from the building, flanked by 2 security officers. His face was pale, sweat glistening at his temples. He looked like a man who knew the game was up. "Mr. Brown," Whitaker said, his voice trembling, "the board has reviewed the evidence you and your supporters provided. The emails, the directives, everything. We acknowledge the harm that's been done. And effective immediately, Officer Daniels has been dismissed and an independent review board has been appointed to investigate every case of misconduct." A cheer went up, but Liam held up his hand, silencing the crowd. "That's a start," he said, his tone firm. "But it's not enough. We want policies changed, permanent oversight to protect students of color and all marginalized groups. We want transparency in every decision made. And we want every staff member who covered this up to face consequences." The crowd roared their approval. Whitaker shifted uncomfortably. "We will," he began. "No more words," Liam interrupted, his voice sharper now. "No more empty promises. We want action." Maya's eyes glistened with tears, her hand tight around his. The crowd was no longer just a collection of students, they were a movement. And Liam knew that together, they were unstoppable. Dr. Keller stepped forward, his voice calm but resolute. "We'll hold the administration to those promises," he said. "And we'll keep fighting until this campus, and every campus, becomes a place where every student feels safe and valued." A sudden movement at the back caught Liam's eye. Officer Daniels stepped forward, his face grim but determined. He raised his voice so all could hear. "I came here to enforce the law," he said, his voice cracking. "But I let my prejudice blind me to what justice really looks like. I failed you, Liam. I failed all of you. And I'm ready to stand with you now, to testify, to help rebuild trust, to make sure what happened to you never happens again." Liam stared at him, his heart pounding. After a long pause, he nodded. "Thank you," he said softly. "That's the first step toward real justice." Daniel's eyes glistened as he gave a small nod. The crowd erupted in applause, some people crying, others cheering. For the first time in weeks, Liam felt something he hadn't felt since that night in the library: peace. The fight wasn't over, but the tide had turned. Justice had begun. He turned back to the crowd. "We've shown that the system can be challenged, and that it can change. Let's keep that energy going. Let's keep holding those in power accountable. And let's never stop using our voices, because they can't silence us if we stand together." He paused, letting the moment sink in. "What do you think real justice looks like?" he asked, his voice resonant. "Who else needs to be held accountable? And what does it mean for all of us to keep fighting?" The crowd hummed with questions and conversations sparked by his words. Liam could feel the momentum growing, the conversation widening beyond him. It wasn't just his fight anymore. It was everyone's. He smiled, feeling Maya's hand slip into his. "Thank you for standing with me," he said, his voice warm, proud. for liking, sharing, and subscribing to keep this story alive. And for every comment, every question, because that's how we build the change we want to see. He raised his fist and the crowd roared. Together, they stood in the light of a new day, a day where justice had been served and where hope felt stronger than fear. Ever experienced a moment when the system treated you as less than you are? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Also, what does justice look like to you? Who inspires you to speak out? Let's build this conversation together. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone. Subscribe to our channel for more thrilling stories that matter.